Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being a viewer and subscriber. In an astonishing day of news, we've seen a big shift in the position from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats. We so far have not seen a response from the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, but we do have some new information about how low the House Speaker actually came down to before saying, hey, let's use the new $908 billion stimulus bill. In this video, I'll talk about that. I'll cover some rather interesting comments from the White House Press Secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, and I'll talk to you about some real life consequences of this pandemic. It's actually affected my house as we speak in the last 24 hours as well. Let's just jump right in. Thank you so much for being a viewer and subscriber. If you learned something new from this video, please consider clicking the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. I would greatly appreciate that. Let's just jump right in. Shelley Moore Capito, who's an important senator, who's an important Republican senator, said that she's ready to sign the $908 billion bill. John Thune, who's another important senator, said that the reason the $300 a week unemployment booster was not in the $333 billion bill proposed by the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was the president and the White House, because apparently the president, based on, I'm trying to connect the dots here. Stephen Moore told the president, I've been trying to block it. The economy does not need another stimulus. It's a big negative to the economy. And by the way, we know for sure that the president is supporting the McConnell stimulus. So this kind of, if you start to put the pieces together, you'll see that this is almost like a game of chess where the pieces have been realigned, but there are lives at stake. We as Americans, I know that 1 in every 8 Americans are going hungry. This is just some astonishing data. I know that for us, it's about putting food on the table. It's about keeping the lights on. It's about paying rent. And for these guys, they go from a 3.4 to a 2.2 to a $900 billion stimulus. And then on the other side, they oscillate between $300 to $500 billion. But the president's position has changed quite dramatically as far as we can tell. Now, I wouldn't be surprised that if by the time you watch this video, there's some new information and, somebody's now, maybe the president is saying, I support $900 billion, and then it gets done. But at this moment in time, it looks like the president is pushing for a $300 billion bill. In other words, the McConnell plan. So that's where things stand. On your screen, you'll see a tweet from Jake Sherman from Politico, and Jake said that he was told by several sources that House Speaker Pelosi came down initially from $1.9 trillion, where she was before the election, down to $1.3 trillion. The problem solver, the bipartisan group, the bipartisan senators group, their bill was at $908 billion. The McConnell bill is right around $500 billion or so. So they're getting close. They're not that far apart, because initially they were very far apart, but the political realities have changed right now. And honestly, we shouldn't even be talking about political realities. We should be talking about what the American people need, what the taxpayer needs. I've said this from the beginning on my channel. I'm in favor of help for those who need it the most, because the fact is some of us don't need help and some of us need a lot of help. There should be help for those who need it the most. Speaking of the shift and how this is shifting our world, I can tell you that my own world sort of has gone upside down because of, I mentioned this in previous videos. I was just notified that a child in my son's class, my son's 5 years old, kindergarten, a child in my son's class tested positive. So that's completely changed the way I have to manage things. So if you hear some crying children upstairs, it's forgive me. So let's just get back to the next item on your screen. You'll see this article that was reported by Bloomberg. COVID unknowns leave survivors fearing life insurance rejection. So what is happening is that insurers are asking individuals if they had COVID, they're asking about the virus. So the applications are being amended. So what's happening is that survivors of COVID are not only seeing higher premiums, but they are potentially seeing rejections. Yep, this is how the world is changing around us with COVID. Because think about it, if there's a risk of dying from this illness, you're going to try and take out a life insurance policy. Guess what the life insurance company is going to do? They're either going to charge you a higher premium or they're going to reject you. That is the world we live in right now. Speaking of the world we live in right now, the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was asked about the latest move from House Speaker Pelosi and from Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. And you see this tweet on your screen from Jake Sherman, and Jake reported that McConnell did not say anything when he was asked about Schumer and Pelosi asking him to negotiate about the bipartisan COVID relief bill. And it looks like he's not very interested and not very keen. This would be absolutely astonishing considering that $550 billion, close to $600 billion out of the $908 billion is repurposed money from the original CARES Act. It's not really new money, but it's repurposed money. But I guess the position from the Senate Majority Leader is that it's unnecessary money, it's too much money. And you saw earlier in this video that Stephen Moore feels the same way as well. One person who doesn't feel that way, you'll see this tweet on your screen from Poppy Harlow from CNN. The Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell spoke with the House Financial Services Committee today, and he said there are still 10 million people who have lost their jobs. By the way, more than 10 million people who are on the PUA program, who are on the PEUC program are scheduled to lose their benefits entirely. And the Senate Majority Leader's plan was to extend those programs by 1 month. That's it. No federal booster, no nothing. And so the Federal Reserve Chairman, coming back to the tweet on your screen, he said that's more than lost their jobs in all of the financial crisis 10 years ago. And then he once again asked Congress to pass stimulus. I'm hoping that can happen. In another interesting bit of news, you'll see this tweet on your screen from Igor Bobnik, who's a politics reporter for the Huffington Post, shifting gears a little bit. Romney was asked to comment on President Trump possibly pardoning himself or his family, because there is some talk about that. Romney said, a pardon would seem to suggest they've committed a crime. That's not something I would want to be associated with my family. Interesting. And in reporting from a few hours ago, which by the way, the reason I'm reporting something from a few hours ago is because all these things sort of tie in together, even though the news, first of all, let's show you the tweet on your screen. Jake Sherman said, this complicates a COVID relief deal. He's talking about Senator Shelby basically talking about a short-term continuing resolution to continue funding of the government instead of something more comprehensive. By the way, that may still end up happening. So the implication is, if it's a short-term, if it's sort of like kicking the can down the road, then we have a situation where, to be quite honest, later we'll need to do another stimulus, or we'll need to do another more comprehensive stimulus bill. And that is likely, according to Senator Shelby, and that would complicate a COVID relief deal. Well, since that tweet, we've had the big news about the Democrats shifting their position, and we've had the big news from the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, which is zip. Nothing. So it's quite likely that this may indeed end up happening. And if you thought that was interesting news, let's take a look at some interesting comments made by the White House Press Secretary, Kayleigh McEnany. I've done other videos about her on our channel. Let's look at some interesting comments she made today at a press conference, at a press briefing at the White House. And she did say that stimulus relief was a current active policy priority along with COVID. Let's roll the tape and see what Kayleigh McEnany had to say.
Does that work progressing at this point, or are you sort of throwing in the towel?
I think right now the focus is making sure that there is stimulus relief for Americans who are hurting right now. So that is the current active policy priority that we are working on moment by moment, along with COVID. Yes.
Kayleigh, as demonstrated by the large red ribbon out around the White House, yesterday was World AIDS Day. The president issued a proclamation yesterday, but consistent with his previous 3 proclamations, omitted any reference to LGBTQ people, even though they bear the brunt of HIV/AIDS. The president included a reference to racial and ethnic minorities, so why not LGBTQ people?
The president honored World AIDS Day yesterday in a way that no president has before, with the red ribbon there, and I think that he commemorated the day as he should have.
Well, there's no reference to LGBTQ people.
Charlotte, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you about Section 330. Is President Trump willing to allow a government shutdown over that in the National Defense Bill?
The president has made clear the importance of 230, and I would point you to his tweet about how that pertains to the NDAA. One thing I would say, when you look at 230, just to explain for the American public exactly what that is, it's essentially a shield that is given to social media networks because they claim to be the public square. But in the case of Twitter, Twitter has become a publisher, choosing to fact check certain content. And when you're a publisher, there are certain responsibilities with that. You should not be immune from liability. And when you look at what Twitter has done on the Ayatollah Khomeini, we were just looking at his Twitter account before coming out here, and just a few weeks ago, the Ayatollah Khomeini of Iran tweeted, quote, "Why is it a crime to raise doubts about the Holocaust?" Something not worthy of a flag by Twitter, which is despicable when you think about it. Also, the Ayatollah has tweeted that Israel is a deadly cancerous growth that should be uprooted and destroyed, something that Twitter did not deem worthy of flagging or blocking in its entirety. And in fact, Twitter executives defended that move in front of the Knesset. This is a very important issue, one that there's even bipartisan agreement that something needs to be done. So the president will be unashamed in fighting against that kind of vitriol that we see and very hateful language that Twitter is publishing.
In the next segment, Kayleigh McEnany was specifically asked to talk about election fraud, because keep in mind the election fraud is still an ongoing thing as far as the president is concerned. And Kayleigh McEnany said that some of the election fraud cases are related to civil litigation, which the campaign is pursuing. Interesting comments, and I thought they were noteworthy. Let's roll the tape and watch.
Can you at least tell me, when was President Trump upset when he heard the Attorney General say that he has not seen or the DOJ has not uncovered evidence of widespread voter fraud enough to overturn the outcome of the election?
I haven't spoken with the president specifically about AG Barr or that comment. And I would also just point everyone to the revised, or the supplemental, I should say, not revised, comment that was put out by AG Barr in the wake of media reporting that seemed to misconstrue his statement. He said this, that some media outlets have, not he, I should say the DOJ spokesperson, some media outlets have incorrectly reported that the department has concluded its investigation of election fraud and announced an affirmative finding of no fraud, and that is not what the AP reported nor what the AG stated. I think a lot of the media didn't read beyond that one comment, the civil part versus the criminal part.
I think maybe the discrepancy is, you have members of the Trump campaign coming forward and saying that there is hard evidence of widespread voter fraud enough to overturn the outcome of the election, and then you have the nation's top law enforcement officer, the Attorney General, saying if there is, he hasn't seen it.
Well, the Attorney General was speaking to what has come before his desk. And again, I point you to the campaign for specific questions on this, but I would just say generally they are pursuing civil litigation, which in fact the Attorney General explicitly said some of this is meant more for civil litigation, which is what the campaign is currently pursuing.
Now, Kayleigh McEnany, like President Trump, is never one to back away from, I don't want to use the word argument, but never want to back away from a strong position. She was specifically asked if if basically a Christmas party was a good idea for members of the administration to pursue, because Vice President Mike Pence and others have announced Christmas parties, and she said if it's okay to loot and burn down buildings engaging in protests, then you can go to a Christmas party. Oh wow. This is the day and age we live in, where the White House press secretary responds like this. Whether you agree or disagree, that's your decision. I'm going to essentially show you what she said, and you can comment below and let me know whether you agree or disagree. Let's roll the tape.
The CDC director today said that the next few months could be among the worst public health months in American history. I wonder, does the White House, is it setting a good example for the public for the White House to go with in-person holiday parties at a time when the CDC and other organizations are asking Americans to forego those kinds of celebrations for their own safety?
Yeah, so if you can loot businesses, burn down buildings, engage in protest, you can also go to a Christmas party. You can celebrate the holiday of Christmas, and you can do it responsibly, which is why the East Wing has noted that they'll have smaller guest lists, masks are going to be available, social distancing is going to be encouraged, hand sanitizing stations, among other measures, but we will engage in the celebration.
And in the final segment, the White House press secretary essentially supported President Trump's position, as you would expect her to. She's the press secretary of the White House. She's essentially representative of the president, and she said science was always on our side and the president has been right, because going back to July, the president said that schools should be open. I want to know whether you agree or disagree. Let me know in the comment section below, but first let's watch what she said. Let's roll the tape.
When we talk about his public leadership, just on COVID generally, I think it's a fitting time, given your question, to note Dr. Fauci now says that we should keep the schools open. He said that this Sunday. This is something the president has said for months. It caused me to go back to July and look at one of my briefing books from July 16th, 2020. And what I found in there was this. The science was always on our side about keeping schools open way back in July. It's being acknowledged now, but in July, you had Dr. Redfield saying, unlike flu, kids are not driving the transmission cycle. You had Dr. Atlas, who's been a leading voice on keeping the schools open, saying everyone else in the Western world, our peer nations are doing it. We can do it. This was back in July. We had a study from the Netherlands about few reports of infections from schools that had stayed open. This was back in July. You had a Yale School of Public Health professor named Albert Koh saying that the bottom line is the impacts of COVID-19 on children is minimal or very low compared to other groups. There was a Lancet quote to that same effect. This was back in July when the president was saying, keep the schools open. I'm looking at the science. It's detrimental to keep kids out of school. But what were Democrats saying? When the president was following the science, here's what Democrats were saying. You had Governor Gavin Newsom say this: I'm not taking pressure from Trump on opening schools. You had Governor Cuomo saying it's not up to the president about opening schools as schools were shut down. You had Mayor de Blasio, who interestingly reversed himself this week, and now kids can go back to school. But back in July, when the science was on our side, he was saying what we won't do is ignore the science and recklessly charge ahead like our president, who was always following the science. You had Jennifer Rubin tweeting that now he wants to kill your kids. I'm not sure how that's responsible reporting. And then you had Anderson Cooper saying that he actually just doesn't care about kids at all, nor the health of their teachers and parents. And you had the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association railing against the president as well. The president's followed the science. He's also kept in mind we have a constitution, and he will be unashamed and always advocating for the science and the best interests of the children of this country. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Let me know what you thought about this comprehensive stimulus update, about new reactions or lack of reactions from the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. There's complete shift in the position, if you will, from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and from the Democrats, and the mounting pressure, if you will, from senators from both sides to try and get a deal done. Most importantly, let me know if you agree or disagree with some of the interesting comments made by the White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. You'll find a link to the entire press briefing in the description section below. And as always, I encourage you to comment below and let us know what you think. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. I really appreciate you watching. If you don't know anything about me, please check out my video. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. We release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. That's 2 p.m. Get your cell phone out, send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000. That's 70000, and you'll get added to SMS alerts list. If you want, you can also get added to our email list. Simply go to ignitiontime.com/alerts. That's ignitiontime.com/alerts, and then you'll get added to our email list going forward. The Ignition Time channel is about the country, it's about the economy, and it's about your money. We cover topics that are important to your bottom line, that are again important to the country, important to the economy, and important to your money. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is ignition_time. That's ignition_time. Also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle, if you want to get breaking news and alerts from us, is also ignition_time. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. Now, sometimes YouTube does not always send out notifications on time. So all you have to do is simply bookmark youtube.com/ignition time. That's youtube.com/ignition time. And then you'll have bookmarked our channel, and you can visit the homepage of our channel and then essentially watch our videos at any point in time that you want. If you learn something new from this video, please consider sharing it with friends and family. You'll always find a link to all of our resources in the description section below. Please comment below, participate in our community. Our community is vibrant, it's growing, it's intelligent, it's bipartisan, it's respectful, and chances are you'll make some new friends in our community. Finally, if you learned something new from this video, please consider clicking the like button. Please gently ignite the subscribe button, ignite that notification button, because the name of our channel is Ignition Time. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.